Did we put the pressure on you, Leon? It's quite funny. Like I opened the stream before I was still setting it up basically, but I can already see who's in the chat. And then I saw you. I was like, oh yeah, he's not having it anymore. It still haunts me. Hold on, let me prep my stuff. So let's have a look. What's the date? Okay. Where's the one that you asked, Leon? Oh yeah, the one about textile density. Cool. I just need to grab the picture that Ioana shared as well. Just drag it up to the screen. Textile density is such a boring topic, but it feels so complicated to me. Yeah, I know. It's one of those technical hurdles. I honestly never stumbled upon textile density. Oh wait, let me switch over my screen as well. There we go. Yeah, like textile density is one of those things that I never really stumbled upon before I got into the industry. It sounds weird now because it's such, I don't know, people put like a lot more emphasis on it now, it feels. Hey, Ioana. Welcome to the stream. Let me move over my tablet, make some space here. I'm excited about getting more feedback rounds too. The only thing that I need to do is I need to set something up where we get more people in. Because I feel... Well, I basically need to figure out why we don't get more people sharing their stuff. It might be a fear of live feedback, right? Like the stress that brings. Might also be that a lot of people honestly just muted the AMA questions chat too. Could be it too. So I need to look into solutions for that. Maybe only make it available in the weekend so that the rest of the week it's like a hidden channel or something. I'm thinking about something like that so that it doesn't clutter up the list too much. But I'll figure that out. Because I think it could be a really good format if we just have more feedback and then like occasional questions. And as stressful as these random feedbacks might be, I do like them though. Hey, Bobby, how's it going? Where is my little tool? My little paint over tool. But yeah, it's been a good week. I've been busy working on a lot of stuff in the background, so like the back end of Beyondextent. I've mentioned this last time as well. But soon we'll all be seeing more changes come to the Discord. Like a more up-to-date format of upcoming events is one of them that I'm working on. Which would be good because a lot of the stuff now gets lost in like the announcement channel. You have to scroll up like a couple of times before you can see like the workshops, for example. So it would be good to get like a calendar that people can just like quickly see what is the upcoming events. And then also I've been thinking about like a message that is pinned to a specific channel that just says, or gives you like an indication how you get the most out of the Discord. Could be cool too. And then also, yeah, like a lot of boring stuff in the background. And also working on the challenge still. Still doing that. So keeping pretty busy. How is everyone in the chat doing? Pame is not too bad. And you? Yeah, I'm doing good. Doing good. Curious about the changes. Yeah, a lot of it is... I would say most of it up until this point is all back-end, so you don't really see it as much as just like a... What is it? Like a viewer or like a person in the Discord. It's more to simplify the stuff that we do, like easier sharing to social media, easier setup for the website. So I'm currently designing and working on a more simple system to have everything connected, and that you can just go to the website and all the information is on there. For example, the workshops aren't on there yet, which is quite unfortunate. So we need to get those up there too, and then just make it easier for people to share and update information between like all the platforms. So yeah, I've been enjoying it though, honestly. I love that kind of stuff. I don't mind working on it. Hey Scott, how's it going? Yeah, Leon. I read the forecast and I think here in Berlin it's gonna get 35 degrees next Thursday. I'm so glad that we have an AC. Like, we bought that last year because it was ridiculously hot. Because we have like a southern facing apartment, so we get bashed by the sun the entire day. And it gets ridiculously hot here. So yeah, bring on that hermit life. Just close the shutters, put on the AC. Yeah, it feels like it shouldn't, right? But it's... yeah, I don't know. It seems to be happening more frequently. Wait, my drawing tool. Oh, there it is. Living under the roof. Oh god, no, that's the worst. I had that during uni. So I can feel your pain. Like, it gets... man, that's probably the worst situation to be in. It would probably, like, under the roof, it would probably, in our uni flat, it would probably get like 45 or something like that. Like, when it gets really hot, and we only had like one small room and then like one roof window, and that was it. So we couldn't get the air out. So we were literally just sitting in the heat, like sweating the entire day, even though we were just sitting there. It was ridiculous. Okay, cool. I'm all set up. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at those questions. So the first one. So I think that's from Pame, right? Yeah. What are the most common questions on interviews? And there's like a second question to that, but I'm gonna split it up and just start with the first one. So what are the most common questions on interviews? I would say the most common questions on the interviews is just, first of all, how to explain your work, how you achieved your stuff, like how you achieved like a specific portfolio piece, and what your thought process were. It's basically you have to imagine that you come into an interview, whether online or like in-house, and you sit down, they have the portfolio already open, which was the case when I was doing interviews. And then we have like a quick introduction. I introduce myself, the other person in the interview introduces himself, and then the person that's joining us as like an interviewee introduces himself, well, him or herself. And then after that, we would probably dive straight into the portfolio. And I would usually start out with a question like, what is your favorite piece on your portfolio? And just take us through it. That would be like my first starting question. So then you can just go through the piece and explain your workflow and explain how you approached it. And then in between, I'll probably ask like a couple of questions to be like, it could be really specific or like really technical to just kind of poke at you to see if you have like a technical understanding, and if it's not just you like executing it from like a tutorial or something like that, right? Worst case scenario. Because sometimes you can get a lot of information out of, I don't know, say for example someone did foliage and they do it in a specific way, then I can push back and like, okay, why didn't you do this in this way? And it's not because it's good or bad, right? It's just different. And it's always interesting to hear what they have to say and to back up their workflow too. Because it's not I wanna emphasize this. Sometimes people come into the interviews and we're like, that's pretty interesting. I never thought about doing it that way. And then it broadens your spectrum too. Other questions. There are like the stereotypical questions that keep changing over time, but they're basically like how would other people see you, or if they have to summarize you as a person in 3 words, what would those 3 words be? I think is a really good question. But yeah, I've seen people that don't really like that question, but I personally still like it because it gives you like a good indication on how you think about yourself and how other people see you around you too. Do they ask if I want to become famous? Damn it, you saw it. No, that's not one of the questions. At least I haven't had that question. Let's see. Other common questions. Sometimes there might be questions where they put you in like a situation, like a stressful situation, just as a kind of like role play environment, right? This can be, let's say for example, what is like an interesting example? So you're working on a project, you're about to hit a deadline in like a couple of days, but you realize that you can't finish it. How do you approach that situation? And the reason why those questions get asked is just to get you like to give the people an indication on how you deal with stressful situations and how you deal with approaching other people when you might be in trouble, or just to know if you're like a good team player too. Yeah, I'm also thinking about like what were some of the questions that I got, because honestly in the interviews that I've done up until this point, I would say I've done, I don't know, roughly 10 or something. Most of our time would just be spent talking about the portfolio itself and like how they approach stuff, and just those questions to get you like an indication of how they are in a team. But usually if you start talking about a portfolio, you can get a feeling of the person themselves too. What is the weirdest question that you had in an interview? That's like the second part of the question. Oh god, it's been so long since I did an interview myself. I honestly can't remember. Let me think about that for a second. Let's have a look at the chat. Do you have any experience with online interviews as well? No. I don't. Well, no, that's a lie, because always when I would apply internationally, I would always do the first interview purely online, and then the second interview was usually the in-house one. So I guess I would have, like, for all my jobs up until now, I always did the first interview purely online. But there was always a part where I would go for the in-house interview. And now, I mean, maybe at some point we're going to get back to normal with that, but it seems like it's a little bit trickier when it's just purely done online. Because there's a lot that you can get from, like, body language, just even, like, if we have, like, a person coming to our studio to do an in-house interview, usually what happens as well is we have the interview part, because this is an entire day, right? This is 8 hours of a day where they interview multiple people, multiple disciplines, and they talk to a lot of different people from the studio. They also usually get, like, a small studio tour, and we also go to lunch with them just to get to know them better, right? And also we take them out for little breaks where we just have, like, a little drink of water or something. So it's completely different than just, like, a purely online experience where it is just purely about the work and nothing else. So that's probably the biggest difference there. But yeah, I don't think it's that bad of a thing to just purely have it online. But yeah, how you did things and why you did things. Repeat. Oh, just the questions, you mean, Scott? I'm really scared about the one. What game have you played recently? Can you criticize it? That's actually an interesting one, because I've gotten that one a couple of times. Not all the time, but yeah, I'm not gonna name the name. Gotta be careful what I say here, right? Never know. For some interviews you sign an NDA, so. But there are instances where they talked about, like, a recent game that they published or, like, brought out, and then they ask you as an environment artist, like, what would you improve upon that game? And I think that's a really interesting question, but sometimes it's so ridiculously hard too. Because there were some games that I was absolutely a big fan of, and I tried this before the interview even, to, like, what as an environment artist would I change? And at that point, I was less experienced than I am now, and it was super difficult to do that. So in the interview itself, I also said that I didn't really know. It was a little bit uncomfortable, but it's better than trying to make something up on the fly and then getting caught in the act. That is something that I just want to emphasize. Like, if you're making stuff up in the interview, you're talking to more experienced professionals, they will know that you're lying. So please don't please don't make that mistake. Do companies ask for their games? Kinda of, have you played this game, or what do you think about this game? Yeah, sometimes they do. Like, my first interview had questions like that, where they were just interested in what kind of games that you were interested in. I remember in my first interview was I brought up Fallout 4, and the art director that I was in the interview with loved Fallout 4 too, and we just instantly had that connection. And we just, honestly, like during that hour of interview, we probably spent like 15 to 20 minutes talking about Fallout 4. And that, it may sound stupid, but I think that was probably like a big, like at least a little factor in if I got that job or not. And it can literally be stuff like that, where it's like, oh, okay, cool interests. It sort of aligns with what the studio wants to do, and it goes on from there, right? But I think those questions do get brought up, and specifically the games that the studio makes themselves. They do ask those kind of things. Oh, and do people dress up for their interviews, or is it casual wear? Just casual. I would wear a shirt, but I honestly like I don't know. Is that called a shirt, like a button-up shirt? But I honestly would always wear those anyway. It's only when I'm working from home that I'm not wearing these. So that's not something that I do specifically for interviews. I just love wearing them. So don't overdo it. Don't come in a suit or something like that, because you're not gonna ever wear a suit in the studio, ever. Like, people just are themselves in like a game studio. Ioana had an online one where their wife was shouting at their kids in the next room. Oh my god. I mean, yeah, that's the new age of interviews, right? Where it's just purely done from home, and there's probably going to be awkward stuff happening with that as well. That's pretty funny though. I can just imagine. Oh my god, it must be so awkward. Because you can't say anything in that position, right? You can't say like, can you speak up a little? Like, what are you gonna say? Like, can you speak up a little because your wife is shouting at your kids? Seems to be the majority of the real questions. Other than that, what games you like, etc. George Chow, that's a really good one. Yeah, that's something that they usually ask too. Is, why do you want to work in our company? That is, it comes in many forms, right? Why do you want to work at our company? Why our company? Or what interests you about our company? Those are things that that definitely, let's have a think. I definitely got asked that in like 90% of the interviews. I honestly try to stay away from that question myself, because it's so stereotypical that it's almost rehearsed when people say it. Because I remember when I was looking for my first job, I would look at the websites, and I would do a ton of research and go into the history of the company before I had an interview, right? And I would know which games that they made, and I would know where their expertise would lie, and I would purely base the answer of that specific question on all the research that I did. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm thinking about if you do the cover letter, you already have that one. Just repeat what you had. Oh, yeah. Oh, goddamn cover letters. I hate them. Yeah, but it's... Sometimes I always try to think in the reverse, right? Like, what are you trying to gain from that question? Why do you want to work in our company? Could be... I think what you're trying to gain from that is if they're really interested in the games or not, and if they really have passion behind the games that the company creates. But then you never know, right? Because it's such a stereotypical question that you can just have people rehash the same thing over and over. So it's kind of a weird one. I tried to stay away from that one a little bit. Money and experience. I mean, in your case, while you're Ubisoft, do you really need more of an answer? Well, in my case, that's actually... If they would ask me that for Ubisoft, it's just purely because I love the idea of working on open worlds. And you can... That's the thing, my portfolio backs that up too. My scenes always tend to go for bigger scenes, right? And I always tend to focus on the environmental storytelling and like the composition and like the grandiosity and those times and those thematics that they're set in. Like I love juggling with all those different pieces to create like a really interesting portfolio piece. Where if, say, I'm gonna come up with like an example, right? Say you're a weapon artist, you apply for Ubisoft and you get the interview, and then well, you apply for like an environment art job, right? I know this is like an out of the blue example, but then the stuff that you put on your portfolio doesn't match if you're gonna give them the same answer as I just did. I want to work on like big open worlds and do like set dressing and all that stuff. Like it needs to match up with what you're trying to show on your portfolio too. So they need to be correlated together. Because that's the thing. Like if you... And I honestly still stand by that. Like if you look at the most exciting open world projects and, well, also stability and also variation potential, that's Ubisoft, right? Like you can go to Rockstar or something like that and they work on like one or two projects like really intensely. But with Ubisoft, you have so much choice. They make so many different kinds of open world. I mean, if you just look at Massive, that they just released the teaser for Avatar, right? That speaks to me. Like that is like an awesome opportunity to potentially work on that. It's not that I am, but that's the thing that attracts me to Ubisoft, right? And the same for Star Wars. Like those things, those projects, I think you can only get within Ubisoft. How many questions do interviews usually have? It depends. There's no set questions. There's also no set time. I've heard interviews that go from like 15 minutes, like really quick, half an hour, something like that, to 2 hours or more. There's no limit to it. Usually, I would say the average is like an hour, and most of that time will probably be spent talking about your portfolio and your personal experience and all that. They look at each other, will often tell you the game you're applying to is a small linear story. Well, sometimes you don't know, right? That's my first interview, where I was I wanted to work on Elite Dangerous, and then I got put on Planet Coaster. I mean, I didn't get put. Like I was told in the first interview that I was gonna be put on Planet Coaster, right? It wasn't a surprise when I joined the industry. I was like, oh shit. No, not forced. It was still my decision. But yeah, good questions, fam. Like honestly, the thing that I can say to summarize all of this is don't overthink it. That's what I did in my first couple of interviews too. But then after that, I was just like, let's just go into it. Still do your research, right? But don't be like all stiff and only answer with the questions that you rehearsed before. Because this is what I say to people that we interview too. Like I'm still just a person, right? Like, I don't wanna. We're gonna get together in this creative endeavor, and sometimes the hierarchy can get in the way. But I just want to have like an open conversation with the person that's coming in, and also just talk about stuff that interests both of us, right? Just to get a better idea of what kind of person that you are. I'm studying hard. I can imagine that. Don't overdo it though. Don't overdo it. Do it up until the moment when you have enough information, but it's not gonna stifle the conversation. That's my recommendation for that. And also, good luck, Pami. I wish you the best. It's gonna be awesome. Oh, hold on. Leon said something. I personally feel like the less you prepare, the better, because you'll be more like yourself and less like whatever they want to see. I've learned over the years that it depends from person to person, because I also know that people, personally, I totally agree, right? So the more that I prepare, the more that I get stuck in this routine of like, oh shit, like I need to remember this and need to remember this, and it puts more stress on me, so that if I fuck up during the interview, I'm lost, because then it's off script, right? Whereas I threw that out of the window pretty quickly, and I don't know, I still did my research. I just went in and I just treated it as a normal conversation. But some people can't do that. Like, they need to have that structure of like one question before the other, and they need to have it like all prepared. I thought that too, and I got a mock interview which went horrible. Oh no. That would actually that would actually be an interesting one to do. Like mock interviews in Beyondextent. Maybe I'll make the same experience, we'll see. Nah, you'll all do fine. Oh, Scott is already out. He doesn't want to do any mock interviews whatsoever. Well, I don't know, right? Like, it's literally you guys giving me that idea. Because I know that a lot of people stress for these interviews. It could be interesting. Yeah, it could be interesting to do like mock interviews. Interview Lloyd for his current Beyondextent position. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it though, Leon. Like, because it shouldn't be, right? Because there's, even with a mock interview, there's no stakes there yet. So, I mean, I do know what you mean, and if I flip the tables, I would probably feel the exact same. But yeah, it's kind of weird that we have like this weird invisible barrier that is like, oh no, now it's a mock interview, even though there's no real consequences to it at all. Like, there's still this pressure that you feel. Not weekly. No. I can't spell in Twitch today. It's all good, Pame. I can read it. Really useful for students and people who are trying to get in. Yeah, it's something that I'll have to think about. Could be interesting. All right. Anyway, we have another question from Leon, so let's dive into that one. Do you have any advice on managing textile density in your scenes? For example, when should one prioritize using the full UV space versus matching the target textile density precisely? Are there differences between how it's managed in production and how it should ideally be done for portfolio work? It's always a balance between the two. So first of all, get like a textile density checker for whatever program that you use. They have them available for like all the programs. So start with that first, and then if you see that there's just like a small bit of space left and that you can fill that up by just scaling up everything uniformly, you could potentially do that to fill up the texture space. But honestly, at that point, it doesn't really matter that much, because I mean, for resources, you're already gonna load that resource in anyway. So yeah, it's only when you say if you do like a textile density calculation and you see that your shells not even occupy half of your UV space, then obviously you need to do something by like lowering the textile density, like reorganizing it, maybe adding symmetry in some of the faces where you can optimize it a little bit more. That is like a good scenario for like optimizing it a little bit more and try to push as much out of it, where you can lower like a 2K to like a 1K texture, for example. Are there differences in how it's managed in production versus how it ideally should be done in portfolio work? Usually in production, it would literally be textile density calculation, maybe backing it as well, and that's it. Like sometimes we don't really mind to 100% or like use 95% of the UV space. It also depends on which workflow that you're using too, right? So maybe for unique props, you would probably try to fill the space as much as possible and like really optimize that resource as much as possible. But obviously for stuff that uses tilables, you don't have to worry about just sticking to the box. You can just overlap outside of the 0 to 1 space. So yeah, it's a case-by-case example. I know with a lot of stuff that we discuss here, it's always like that, and it always feels like a roundabout way of just talking about stuff. But that's unfortunately just the reality of it. Where I would say most of the time, focus on textile density, and then if it takes you like a little bit of tweaking, try to go for full UV space, and then it's all nice and clean. Sometimes there's like really specific textile density measurement tools as well, where you have to stick to the textile density and don't have to worry as much about the full UV space. Yeah, but honestly, managing it is literally just getting a good tool and then just calculating the textile density based on that tool. I mean, you have to have like a number in your head, right? Like how big is a texture gonna be on like a 1-to-1 meter cube, for example? So you have to have that little what is it? So you have to have that foundation to start from, so that you can start calculating all the other pieces should you need to. But yeah, I mean that's the gist of it. Usually it's literally just a tool that takes care of most of the work, honestly. I haven't done that many props, gotta be honest about that, especially in the last year or something. So yeah, I don't know, take it with a pinch of salt, I would say. But in my opinion, focus on textile density and then full UV space within a limit, right? You can't have like half a UV space and then just have like good textile density, because that's not going to work. Are there any differences between the textile density of a small prop and the textile density of a wall or something like that? That's a good question. Hold on, let me read this relevant thing from Leon first. So I don't have to be super strict about it, and but be in the ballpark. So it looks right, even if technically it isn't 100%. If you look at games, nothing is technically 100% correct. There will always be cases where you have to scale stuff down, where you have to scale stuff up as well, to compensate. And this also leads into the question that George Yao was asking too. There is a difference between textile density between small props, walls, gameplay elements. They all can have a different textile density. Usually, if we say for the context that we're looking into right now, a small prop and a wall are probably going to have the same textile density. But if you then compare that to a weapon or a gameplay prop, those elements, because they're more important for the gameplay, are going to have a higher textile density. Because you can pick up a weapon, you can pick up a gameplay prop, you can do all kinds of stuff with it, right? With like a normal small prop, you can't usually pick them up. So there are differences in that. And then in some cases they have background props too, right? That have a lower textile density. And they're only used as like background props anyway. So it varies upon the use case of the object. But if you just have a scene with like all static items, for example, they usually have the same textile density. And then sometimes, yeah, again, importance comes into it as well. So for example, if you have a scene with like all static elements, I'm thinking about, my go-to is always like a square with a statue on it, for example. You can probably see that a lot of the static objects in the scene have the same textile density, but then the statue in the middle might have a little bit of a higher textile density, because that is going to be the main focal point of the scene. Or what also might happen is you have additional resources available for that statue. So whereas this is breaking away from textile density, has nothing to do with it, right? So let's make that separation for a second. Where props in a scene, especially in like open world scenes, are textured with tilables and then just masks, right? But then that statue might have a unique normal map, whereas the other elements in the scene don't have that unique normal map. So yeah, good question. Good question. All right. Cool. So it's time to dive into some feedback. Let's switch over the screen. Which one is it? This one. Hey, there we go. So this is the scene that Ioana is working on for our lovely solo challenge that she organized herself. This is one from last month. This is the London subway challenge. Let's dive into it. Okay, let me grab my pen. Yeah, the sign is so good. Zhao, okay, thank you for the explanation. No worries. If you have any more questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat. Yeah, I agree. I love the sign, Scott. I like the shapes. Sign still needs text. Yeah, that's gonna look good. I just like the shapes. I think you nailed the chunkiness. The chunkiness and just the feel of well, that typical Overwatch feel, right? Where's my little toolbar? There we go. So yeah. Oh. Why are you wiggling? Pin tablet's just acting up. Okay. let's have a look. I like these little storytelling elements here that you added. I read this comment of a person in the Discord saying that they really like the luggage edition. I'm not sure, because the way that I think about it is in like a storytelling aspect, right? Where, what is that saying? Is this like luggage abandoned by people? Like, did something happen where they had to abandon their luggage and then like rush into the tunnels or something? It could be a nice and interesting story angle, right? But it might look a little bit weird now that it's just there. That is just there right now. But this works though. I like that, because that's the thing that you see in like London subways, right? You have these little corners where they have like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're like homeless people or like street musicians that just like do like little small concerts in these tunnels. So I like that you included that. I really like that. Holographic displays still use signs. I feel like those coins don't hold much value. I don't know, sometimes it's nice to have something tangible to latch onto, right? So I do like that. I think the main thing, if you wanted to spice this up a little bit. Oh, the instruments? You mean these instruments? Or you mean like these cases? The guitar case. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Right, I think the main thing is just like signage and branding, right? Think about what they have in like the London Underground. Like they probably have I know that you might be pulling this. I mean, this is where I got my inspiration from as well, right? It's just like these little posters with like just advertisements on it that could spice things up. Also, I know that you're gonna have signage here, but I like the stereotypical signage that they have, where it's just like, I don't know, like these filled in arrows that say like I mean, this is not going to be the exit, but like with like really fat letters just saying like exit, that kind of stuff. Like, it's usually the branding that adds like a whole bunch of stuff to the world. So like an exit sign, you would probably want to have that arrow like the other way, right? Because this is going up. That's cool. Hey Scott, thanks so much for the gift sub, man. So that means welcome to the Discord community, Joe Shao. You will what was it the last time? You have to connect your Discord account to your Twitch, and then you can get access to the Discord community. Yeah, that's awesome, Scott. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Okay, let's have a look here, right? I want to be really careful with what I suggest for these signs, because the more that you're gonna add clutter, the less it's gonna feel like an Overwatch, because these Overwatch scenes, they usually like really clean, so you have to be really careful with what you add here. So yeah, like even this kind of stuff, these advertisements, really be careful where you place them. Like, really think about where you're gonna add them. because that's going to be really important. I honestly don't really mind that it's so sparse and that it's so clean. How do you wanna keep it, Ioana? Like, is it supposed to be like really clean, or do you wanna add stuff to it? I think. I like it quite clean like this. Okay, that's good. Gives me something to work with, right? Then yeah, I would probably even push the cleanliness a bit more. Okay, so ignore some of the stuff that we said before. Like, this sign doesn't really matter then. You're gonna have these little signs here, this advertisement. It's not gonna match that. So what I would do in that case is probably get rid of these two things. Clean up the corner here. Maybe even remove this thing here so that is just about these two benches. And this garbage can in the middle. Because then you're just putting emphasis on like the stuff that's already there, and you're not adding too much clutter to it. Because it's also about how you're gonna tackle like the decals. They have to be really subtle, but they add a lot to your scene. Like, just have I don't know, some grime dripping from the wall. But again, it has to match that style, right? So it can't be too much. It has to be like really subtle. So I would probably get rid of these elements. The reason why I would also get rid of them is because now the more stuff that you add, the more it's going to pull attention to that. Whereas maybe you want to pull more attention to this. So then I would also have like one light here. Then pull extra attention to like this zone. Because this could be a quite interesting corner. And then I wouldn't worry about like trying to fill up the space too much. Because again, you want that clean look, like. Yeah, you want that clean look, so don't worry about filling it up too much. Because what it's also gonna do, if you open up these spaces, it's gonna introduce like areas of rest too. Because now you have this line of, or like this big area of just clutter almost. Like, it's one continuous shape. So it would be nice to break up that shape. Open it up for some areas of rest. Yeah, and then maybe what I'm thinking of as well is sometimes what they do to put some extra emphasis on this corner in the London Underground, they have these patches on the floor where you can see that it's like a designated area for like a singer. And you could really emphasize that with using like an interesting color here too. Man, that's probably the ugliest shape I've ever seen. So usually they have like these nice round patches that create like a nice little stage for the artist. You could probably create something like this to pull extra emphasis on what they're doing here. Maybe even have like a mic stand or something. So you have like a, I don't know, like a little tripod mic stand. Could be interesting too. But what this is doing is we're removing stuff from this side, right? So we're removing space from this and we're moving details over to here. So we're pulling the attention more to this side than to this side. Just moving it a little bit over, because details all over the scene, or like stuff all over the scene, is never gonna look good. You need to, there's this 70-30 rule that they have in design, where usually it's 70% rest and then 30% details. We can apply the same thing here, where you just have this corner of details and like you just fill it up with some stuff, and then you have like areas of rest. "70% decals." No! Not decals. Damn it. Googled it and it's exactly what you mean. Nice. Yeah, honestly, like the materials, they look great. I like, what is it? Blue. I like the little reflections. I know that you're doing this in Unreal Engine 5, right? So this is gonna look really nice. Probably boost the emissive of this so that you can get some nice bounces from that too. Yeah, this is gonna look really good. Yeah, and honestly, I think that might be it. You will probably have to do something with like decals, like you're already doing on some of the corners, right? You have like these decals. They're good. I would maybe even tone them down just a little bit more, so that they're really subtle and that they don't introduce too much dirt in the scene. And then same with some of the other decals, right? Like have them really, really subtle. And I think you're good then. What color would you suggest for the 3 signs? And would you use POM? Oh yeah, that was your question from earlier, right? Honestly, I wouldn't use POM. What usually tends to happen is we get carried away with all these like really technical things to push the fidelity, but you don't need them. It's like an artistic choice. Because also, one of the limitations of parallax occlusion mapping is if you look at it from like really steep angles. So if you're really close to like a flat surface, like for example, here, POM is gonna break anyway. So yeah, you can't really use POM in this example. So then you would probably need to convert it into like a mesh that has actual geometry into it, right? You could, I made one of those tips like a couple of weeks back where you can just use the height map in Blender or 3ds Max or Maya, then do like a displacement with that map, and then use that as geometry. You just have to clean it up a little bit. You could go that route if you wanted some extra fidelity. That could be interesting, but honestly, I don't think you need it. Not with this style that you're going for. And what color would you suggest for the 3 signs? The majority of the scene is green. So my first instinct would be to go with a color like this. And I think that was the original color that it had as well, right? But maybe, I don't know. It feels a little bit too intense, or like too in your face, or I I don't know, like a notification sign. Like if you make them orange, it's more like a warning sign. Interesting. So they were blue at the beginning. I would probably make them this blue now. What do you think about it? Why did you switch it up from blue? Let's have a look here. I'm gonna read through the chat as well. Commander Garbage, hey, since you're a game artist, you might be able to help me with something. In an upcoming project, we'll have 2 months to make a game, but there's a catch. I am a programmer and we lost most of our class. 11 of the 30 are left, so now we have 3 artists for every 1 programmer. It's hard to set in stone what we'll be able to achieve. Any tips on planning with a team that unbalanced? Okay, interesting question. I'll have a look at that a little bit later after this. Because they look confusing next to the circle sign. Yeah. Because that's also a good question, Leon, by the way. It depends on what kind of signs that they are. Because if they're just gonna be, I don't know, public notice signs, right? I would probably make them light blue like this one and then have like white logos on them or something to make it really friendly. But yeah, maybe you need to tweak the light blue, maybe make it a bit more subtle than this one. Basic info signs like toilets, food area, stuff like that. Yeah. They could be white. And then blue logos? Man, that's gonna clash so hard. White and blue logos? Ugh. I mean, this is personal opinion, right? It could work. But first thoughts on that is just like, oh, it's just gonna clash, I think. I think you have to flip it. Like blue signs with white logos. I think work better than the other way around. I'll try that. Okay, awesome. Yeah, but I think this is a really cool, too many colors. Probably have them white and then cut the icon in. Yeah, it also depends on how you're gonna do the text on the other sign, because there needs to be some consistency there, I think. If you're gonna cut the sign, if you're gonna cut the letters in the main sign too, that could work, but there needs to be consistency between the two, I think. Should be easy to iterate on the colors, so yeah, I think so too. So yeah, give it a try. I think you got enough suggestions now. Yeah, just to reiterate, I really like the chunkiness and the cleanliness of the scene as well. I really think that you're nailing that Overwatch vibe, especially where you're pushing the roughness up here. It's so pleasing. If you can get some of the same effect on these things, which I assume you will, it's gonna look really nice. And then maybe even do the same thing on the floor. Hell yeah! Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for sharing this as well, Ioana. I really appreciate it. All right, Scott. I know that you shared something in the chat, but I'm probably not gonna get to it today because I have some other stuff that I need to do. But I'll keep it for. Well, share me an updated version next week if you want. Well, you were trying to finish it by the 17th, right? Yeah, it's all right. Okay, cool. Can I get a copy of this paint over? No, I removed it. Well, it's gonna be available in video format, right? So you can just take a snippet from the video once it's out. I'll post in the Discord before. That's good. Maybe I can give you some pointers then if you post it. Let's have a look. Let's go back to this question from Commander Garbage. It's hard to set in stone what we'll be able to achieve with any tips on planning with a team that's this unbalanced? Wait, so 2 months to make a game, but there's a catch. I am a programmer and most of our class. So we have 3 artists for 1 programmer. It's hard to set in stone what we'll be able to achieve with a team this unbalanced. I mean, if you have 3 artists for every programmer, don't expect too much from the programming side. Focus on the core foundations of the game. Don't overload yourself. Try to make it a simple game that is manageable for you, but make it a really pretty one. You could make something that's really artistically interesting and have it fairly simple from the programmer side. So with a team that unbalanced, you just have to work to your strength and weaknesses, right? So yeah, that's what you do. Try to focus on a simple game where you can, or maybe even focus on like one interesting mechanic as a programmer that's gonna drive the entirety of the game, and then have like real cool art surrounding it. I think that balance is better the other way around. When the art is spread too thin, always becomes an ugly game. Try to make it a simple, pretty game instead. Yeah, I think so too. I think you can achieve a lot with having like one simple core mechanic. It just has to be fleshed out, right? So don't spread yourself too thin. If the artists come at you with crazy ideas, shoot them all down. I've been in situations like that where I'm like, oh, man, we could do something like this. And then if you don't push back, that's going to overwhelm you pretty quick. So you just have to get together with your team, get to one core aspect of the game, and then just execute it from that point on. Yeah, I hope that helps. Let's read through the chat really quick. They used to... Train stations don't have bins. I found out recently because bombs. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, now that I think of it. Interesting. Copy of the paint over. Okay, cool. So I think that's gonna do it for today. I gotta run off and do some other stuff. So I appreciate all the good questions. Fame, Leon, and then Ioana sharing her art too. Thank you so much for all being here, sharing all the great feedback and thoughts. And yeah, if you want to check out more Beyondextent stuff, Beyondextent.com is available for everyone. Go out there, check it out. There's a whole bunch of other resources that are on there. And also, you can get access to the Discord community if you want through our Patreon, which is also linked on Beyondextent.com. So, I wish you all a happy Sunday, a happy rest of the weekend, and oh yeah, also thank you so much, Scott, for gifting this sub to Joshua. That's amazing, man. That's freaking awesome. All right, everyone, thank you so much for being here, and have a nice Sunday. See ya.